Let's practice the art of room design in Index Card RPG. Now, if you've never built a room, encounter, or a scene in Index Card RPG, it can be a little daunting at first because ICRPG is a tool set. It's a tool set filled with different tools and elements that you can include, customize, and implement to create pretty much anything that you can imagine. Any room, any scene, ICRPG can handle it. But how to include those elements effectively or dynamically in the way that you want, it takes practice. But this is where I want to share a framework, or at least a thought process, to get about 80% of the design done in just a few minutes, and then I can spend the rest of my time prepping the more customized, detailed portions of the scene as I move along. But let's just dive in with the very first thing. After I've established my space, which in this case is my nice lava room. I love environmental scenes. And so the very first thing, once I have this space established, is I'm just going to slap in a target of 12. 12 is a great base number, and when in doubt, drop the 12 in, you'll probably be good to go. So there it is. Afterwards, I have the target and the space, but I need to establish kind of the range of movement that my players can have. I have my players down here in the bottom of the scene, but I'm going to drop in a banana. Just for a minute, just to give my space, my headspace established on how far can they move in a single turn, because a banana represents a far or a dash. And so in a single turn, right now, my players could move about here, which is great. About half the scene if they dash straight across, if they're trying to get from one end to the other, or maybe if they want to go like the longer ways, they could probably get about here. If that's too much, I could shrink down the range, and now going from here to here is a far. So now I've got three rounds before they can cross the whole room. Just establishing that distance helps me kind of familiarize myself a little bit more with the space. But for now, let's take it to about half the room going one way or the other. Okay, so target, range, and distance, we've got that's done and taken care of. The next thing is we're moving right into the 3 T's of ICRPG, which is the timer. Again, I don't know what these details are, but I'm just going to slap down a D4 because I'm just going to include a timer. I don't know exactly what it's going to mean yet, but there it is. There's going to be a D4 in this room. Then after timer, the next T is a threat. This is where it starts to become a little bit more thinky. You don't just slap it on. And for me, I start thinking about two things. Is it a monster or an enemy threat, or is it an environmental threat? Just from the get-go, I decide one path or the other, because I could include a band of goblins as an enemy threat that comes in, and they are going to be a threat to the space or to the players, and that's what they have to deal with. That's an enemy or a monster threat. Or I can make it an environmental threat, because again, we're threatening the players with some kind of danger, something that's kind of spurring them on. And so I could say, hey, the lava is rising. The lava in this space is going up, and if you're not careful, you could end up in the lava as the room fills. So environmental or enemy. Decide on one or the other and go from there. For me, I'm going to decide on environmental for this one. From there, we have our timer, which is we've got the D4, and then we've come back to the threat, and now the last T is the treat. Again, the treat that you can, a treat is sometimes the hardest part of a room design, is coming up with what to encourage or give your players, because it's tricky. Do you always drop in loot? Like for me, here's some treasure, go get it. You get to roll on the loot table. Done. Easy peasy. If that's what you need to do for treats, just do it. Just drop in some loot. Go for it. But you can also include some environmental treats as well, which would be things like there's a skeleton that you see that you can explore. Maybe they have some clues about what's happening. There's a random lever that you could pull and something will happen in the scene. Or there's an element of the environment that you can interact with, like this stalagmite, where if you spend some strength, you could maybe tip it over, and now you've got a bridge. And a treat is really just anything that's going to make the room more dynamic, something to give the players, something to add a little bit more fun, just a toy really of anything, whether it's treasure or an environmental thing. And it can be small, it can be big, it can be whatever. But dropping in something, a lot of the times, like I said, to get 80% of the way there, I'll drop in some loot, some kind of there, or some environmental thing. Again, a treasure or a piece of environment. Decide on one, lean into that. For this particular scene, I think I'm going to go with treasure this time. So we're going to take away the environmental treats and we're going to have some treasure. And I've put the treat away from just the main path. So if they want it, they kind of have to go and spend some time in the scene. And it's a little dangerous to go get. Just to keep them involved in the scene and make it a choice, a dilemma between the treat and the main purpose of this room. From there, the last thing that I'm going to do to get to my 80% of the way there is some kind of wonder. Now, in Index Card RPG, you have the do, which is the danger, the energy, and the wonder. The danger and the energy is something that you don't necessarily just include in the building of the scene. It's part of how you run the scene as a GM, part of the session. The danger isn't danger of death, it's danger of failure. It's danger that if things don't go right, then some other calamity will happen. In this case, maybe something in the next scene will be worse off if they don't get through this scene fast enough. Or the energy is what you bring to the table as the GM, the energy and the excitement of the room that you bring. So I can't include that. That's part of the 20%, but the 80% finishes off with the wonder. And it's a lava room. So let's just have huge bursts of fire because that sounds kind of cool. And so we got fire spouts just blasting off, and maybe they could use it as another environmental treat where they throw in an enemy into it, or they use it to use their shield and blast off into the ceiling, or I don't know. It can be a lot of different things, but it's taking that scene from one thing and umping up the wonder and the excitement. And we're playing an RPG. Like, there's no reason that this has to be purely simulationist. It can be wondrous. It can be exciting. They're players in the middle of a volcano. Like, let's make this super exciting because we can. And that's where we go. I got 80% of the way there. Now, again, there's still 20% left, and that detail is going to come out as I kind of start back at the beginning and hone in exactly what I'm looking for the scene. So once I've got 80% of the way there, I could probably run this off the seat of my pants with the 80%. But coming back and finishing off with those 20%, I'm going to move back to the target and I'm going to go, okay, is a 12 exactly where I want it to be? Maybe I need to bump it up to a 15. Maybe I need to bump it to a 13. Maybe I drop it down to a 10. I kind of reestablish what I'm looking for based off of where my head is at with this scene. Then what I'll go from there is I will reevaluate the timer. So what does that D4 mean? What does it mean? Okay, well, the threat is the environment. I'm not going to worry about that. So maybe in a D4 rounds, maybe I will include those enemies that come in. So in D4 rounds, some goblins are going to show up, and it's going to make things more complicated because now they're dealing with the environment and some goblins in D4 rounds. So a timer taken care of. Then we're going to move to the threat. So like I said, we've got this environment. What is so threatening about this lava? I just know that there is lava. So maybe what I can do is every round, this lava is going to, cover one section of this map. So in a round, it's suddenly going to bubble up and there's going to be lava on this space. Or maybe I roll a D4 and it's going to cover one of these spaces. It's going to, like a wave of lava is just going to, bubble up and it's going to cover it for a second. And so depending on where you're at, it can be a little bit more random. And so you have to be careful and you're going to take some damage. But this is where the threat is. Is it threatening because it's random and I could get hurt by lava? Or is it threatening because the lava is kind of chasing me and I need to hurry along the way? Especially if they need to go over here to the treasure and then the lava is building and building up and slowly cutting off their their path. How do they get through there? I don't know. That's not for me to decide. That's for the players to decide. But let's decide for, instead of random, I'm going to go with the chase. The lava is chasing them. That's going to be their threat, the thing that's the environmental threat that's happening to them. Then from there, I'll reevaluate the treasure, the treat. Okay, what kind of loot? What kind of loot will really capture the attention of my players? Do I have players that are weapon oriented? If I give them that shiny sword, are they going to like go mad getting it? Maybe there's people who are really like loot in the sense of treasure. They want that gem, so maybe I'll give them this big shiny gem that they can sell, or it's part of this session and they need that gem to get it. Or maybe they just want some random loot, so I'll drop a chest in and then say you need a heart of effort to open this locked chest because it's sealed with lava and molten stone that's fused to lock together. Then you get a random loot roll, and maybe it's epic because someone dropped something in the volcano. So maybe a chest, and I'll reevaluate that one. So let's put a chest in there because I think that will draw the attention of my players the most. And then from there, I will go to the wonder and reestablish the wonder of the scene. We've got these fire spouts. I'll say, every round they're popping off and they do ultimate damage if you get hit by one, or throw something in there. Essentially that one, and maybe I'll roll a d4 and it will increase the heat a little bit if all of them go off or whatever. I just reevaluate that. There, I've done 2 passes of those basic elements for my scene, and I've gotten now to like 90% of the way there. And the final 10% is going to be establishing the stats. What are the stats of these monsters? Okay, what are the stats of the lava? How much damage does standing in lava do? Is it going to be D4 every turn? Is it going to be D6 every turn? Is it going to be a D12 every round? Who knows? What's the goblins going to do? Are they going to bite? Are they going to claw? Are they going to have special powers? Are they going to breathe fire? Are they immune to fire? That final 10% is going to get me through my stats. It's going to get me through any elements and details for what NPCs are doing, if there are any, what the environment does. And from there, I've got my room, I've got my scene established, all because, and I found that if I get 80% of the way there with some generic pieces, then that last 20% of doing some recurring passes through can really hone in and refine the scene into something that I really like. But what do you think? What kind of process do you follow for your building your scenes? How do you do it? Is it in your journal? Is it on a computer? What's your process for using the art of room design? Let me know in the comments. But for now, let's head back to the kiln. We've got lots of projects. I've got a game to prep for, which will hopefully include a little bit of this room later today. But we'll catch you later in the kiln. Thanks, everybody. Hey, we have stickers now! A big thank you to the Kiln Folk supporters who made this all possible. There's a link in the description below to the Ko-fi shop where you can grab a sticker for yourself. Go check it out!